Starting with a breath today. How are you all doing? The word of this year, at least for me and for my circle of friends, and just what I pick up from the collective and witnessing things, is unrelenting. Unrelenting in some form or another, even if it's just the energy, the cadence of the energy is so intense, and time is speeding up, and we're mid-May. It's wild. Like, where has this year gone, right? I am finding myself on my knees with exhaustion and overwhelm. I continue almost a year and a half later to not have a permanent home. And how that triggers your survival instinct is just unbelievable. Even if you're trying not to choose the path of fear, it's still like you can never relax. But I wonder too, if some of you that, have a beautiful home and a beautiful partner and a beautiful lots of things, you're probably also feeling the unrelenting energy. It's very, very, very intense. And so today I want to speak to what's going on energetically. I really want to speak from and to an energetic point and perspective, because the reality that we're in, everything that is kind of seems tangible is no longer tangible, right? Everything is changing. And so what do you quote unquote hold on to? Hold on isn't the right word, but what do you, if I would use the analogy of like holding someone's hand, whose hand are we holding right now? Like, what is that? What does that look like as we're kind of being thrown through so many different, like, patterns of weather, metaphorically speaking? Sometimes it's beautiful and blissful and the sun is shining and it's lovely. And then sometimes it's torrential rain, and sometimes it's a volcano, and sometimes it's an earthquake, and sometimes it's a tsunami. And whatever it is, I know that we're going through just like constantly changing internal and external weather, metaphorically and not so much, like actual pretty literal as well. So whose hand are we holding? And what is the one thing that is going to give us peace amidst the chaos? So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. I really questioned if I should even be doing a podcast right now, because, like I said, I'm on my knees with exhaustion, that I'm like, what do I even have to offer? Like, what do I have to give right now? And so the only thing that I can give and I can offer is my human experience right now, and to be as real and raw and tender and honest and authentic with you, so that maybe some of you relate and resonate and feel less alone. I was speaking with a dear, dear friend of mine this morning, messaging, and we'd like to go out into kind of like, what is this whole experience, and if you're here, you lean towards the spiritual. And what I mean about the spiritual is simply that we are not this body. This is an experience, a school of life for the soul. Like, this is not our true identity. This is just the vessel and the vehicle for this experience of being human on planet Earth, right? So I'm going to speak from that perspective. So if that's not for you, either stick around and be curious, or, have a wonderful day or evening. When I hear a lot of spiritual people saying, you are the maker of your reality, your thoughts, everything, you are in control of your reality, you are the maker of your reality, I have beef with that sometimes, because there's certain things that I go, yes, that's true. And then there's certain things I'm like, no, that doesn't line up. And I was listening to, my friend sent me a video of Daryl Anka, I think is his name. He channels Bashar. I know his work, but I don't follow him so much. But he was just speaking as himself, the man himself, and at one point he was saying, and I like this, it's like we have this idea, and he says, because we're in time and space, we have this idea that we leave our spirit, we leave our soul, and we come down into this realm, into a human body, right? And we have this human experience. But it's like who we are, and kind of the realm of the soul is somewhere over there, behind us, away from us, above us, wherever. It's not here. And he's saying, no, it's here. We are in the spirit. We are in the soul. We never left God, source, creator. We never left our soul or our spirit. He said it was more like this kind of this inner gaze, like where a part of our soul puts its attention and focus, consciousness into this experience of, like, for me, being Corinne, and we have these collective agreements to be here in this kind of experiment together. And he was saying that our soul has kind of chosen a path for us, right? What we are in control of, what I'm picking up, what I'm tuning into, is the analogy that I would use is, if you've ever done plant medicine, you close your eyes and you go into a totally different realm and reality. You're here, you're in your body, right? You're still in the space around you. You haven't gone anywhere, but you close your eyes and you are in all sorts of dimensions and realities and manifestations. You could be a person, you could be a former part of, your child self. You could be a peacock feather. You could be a tree branch. You could be anything and everything, because in those experiences, you are feeling what it's like to be consciousness itself, God, source, creator, seeing itself through the lens of these different incarnations, right? But you've never left yourself. You're still you. And when the plant medicine kind of, you're on the other side of it, you open your eyes and you're like, oh, I'm back, and it was maybe 4 hours, but in it was lifetimes, timeless, right? So it's also very similar to how when we go to bed at night and we have a dream, in the dream, it feels very real. We're having this experience with this person. We're having these, whatever interactions or conflicts or challenges or joys or all of these things. And then we wake up the next morning and go, wow, that was a wild dream. Like, I dreamt about all sorts of crazy shit, but like, boom, I'm back in my reality, right? And so as I was speaking to this recently, that it's like the Russian dolls, you keep on kind of opening one and there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. It's fractals within fractals. And that can be really like mind bending, right? But I think the simplest analogy is that this is like a dream, and it's a purposeful dream. And in a dream, and in a plant medicine journey, you don't actually have any control of what unfolds, right? So the whole thing of like, we're in control of our reality, I actually don't think so. I'm going to get to what we are in control of, quote unquote. Our soul, as Daryl was saying, has laid out this experience for us. It's like laid out the course for us, that we're like, okay, I want to learn this as Corinne. These are the experiences that I want to have. This is what I'm learning in this lifetime. This is what I want to give, or whatever it is. It's laid out the course, right? When spiritual people or teachers or whatever say we have free will, which we do have free will, what the free will part of that is. It's not, I'm constantly creating my reality, because the thing is, if we were constantly creating our reality, a lot of us would change it. A lot of us would change it. You go, why have I created this illness? Why have I created the fact that I feel homeless for a year and a half? So many people, why have I've created not having partnership, not having children when I wanted children, not, whatever it is. There's a lot of people that would say, why the hell has my soul chosen this? Why have I created this? And I think in the spiritual jargon, it's really easy to blame and judge ourselves and believe, oh, I went wrong somewhere because I'm not doing it right. I'm not visualizing right. I'm not manifesting right. I'm not meditating right. I'm not positive enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not awakened enough. I'm not something enough. Because why is my life continuing to do this? Because we were never in control of the course of our life. That's the soul. That's the driver, right? We are the car. We are not the driver. The soul is the driver having this experience. When you're in a psilocybin trip or plant medicine journey, you are not in control of the scenes that come in. But what you are in control of, and this is where free will comes in, is how you choose to respond to the scenes that come into your life. So, as an example, in my plant medicine journey that I'd done years ago, is there was a scene there was two things that I really, really remember that I want to share here. There was one scene that kept on coming back around, and it was a childhood memory. And it happened enough that I kept on coming back that finally, like on the fifth time, I'm like, okay, here we are again. What are we going to do with this? Right? And that was a moment where I'm like, I made like a proclamation. I said out loud, I let go of this state of being. Like what it was bringing up was I was alone as a child, left alone in this white room, while the adults did stuff. I had no toys, I had no friends, I had no nothing. I had just me and my imagination. But what it planted the seed of is you're alone, Corinne. You're alone in this room, and you've got no friends and you've got no things and you've got no toys and you've got no, and whatever. I can see the reasoning for it, but it was like I finally said, basta, enough with this. I do not want to have this as my job description anymore, that I am alone and I keep on replaying these patterns of being alone. And so there was like a proclamation in that moment. And then I never went back to that scene again. So that was one thing. It was like, this is going to present itself. It's going to present itself again and again and again. How am I going to choose to respond to it? The first couple of times it might be, okay, I'm witnessing it, I'm observing it, I'm feeling it, I'm re-experiencing it, right? But you know this, that when patterns come into your life, once it's come around enough times, then you can have the perspective of like, okay, why is this here? What is it showing me? What is it revealing to me? What am I learning from this? And then when you're like, got it, then you can let it go. The scene doesn't need to come back in anymore. So the scene will continue to present itself because that's the course that the soul laid out. How we choose to respond to it, that's our free will. That's the free will part, not what's going to come into our life, not the experiences that are going to come into our life. Because it's a lot of pressure when you feel like I am the creator of all of this. And so if you created this experience, so many people go, oh my God, what have I done so bad to attract this into my life? What am I doing so wrong to attract this into my life? No. This was designed very specifically for you. And your only job is to choose how you respond to it, with what level of consciousness and awareness, and ultimately heart, love, compassion, care, and forgiveness and patience with and for yourself. So another moment in my plant medicine journey that I remember was I was going through a part of it that was really scary. And it was really uncomfortable, and I could feel the fear creeping in viscerally. And I remember thinking, I want to get out of this. I want to get out of this. I'm done with this. I want to come back to reality. And how many of you have had those moments as a human being? I'm raising my hand so many times where I'm like, I'm done with this shit. Please get me out. Get me out of this bad trip. I'm done. I want to go back home. I want to wake up. I want to come back to reality, right? Because remember, this is not reality. This is the dream. This is the school of life. This is the experience our soul is having. And of course it's real, right? But not really real, if you get what I'm saying. So I was feeling this fear coming in, and I could feel it almost like this mist that was overtaking me. And then I just so clearly heard the words, let love in. Let love in. And then it completely shifted. It completely shifted. And what I learned in that moment is, yes, hard things are going to come up. Fear is going to come up. Suffering is going to come up. Pain is going to come up. Challenges are going to come up. The choice to respond in that moment for me is I can either resist it and be in a state of fear, or I can let love in. And it was like taking an inhalation where just the breath came in and it just shifted that whole scene. And then I went into the most beautiful, like seeing the color of music. And I started singing. And my friend that was guiding it put on a song that she always said is like a complete heart opening song. It was just so beautiful, by Loire is her name. I wish I could remember the name of the track. But so I was just singing and singing and singing, and I could see all the melodies and see the colors, the most vibrant colors you've ever seen of just the color of sound. Which, you know, if you've listened to the telepathy tapes, a lot of autists, they see things as sound, right? They see words as they see words as colors. So where do I want to bring us with this? Our free will lies in how we choose to respond. The more we resist our experience, the harder it's going to be and the scarier it's going to be. And, you know, I was listening to Lori Ladd. She popped up on my Instagram this morning, and she's talking about, you know, we're in this spiritual battle. We're in this kind of invisible war. And the war is happening in our mind because of this kind of consciousness that manipulates our thoughts and our mind and creates fear and greed and survival. And, you know, look at what's happened to our society. Look at what's happened to our relationship with the earth. Because when we're severed from who we truly are, which is love, and when we're severed, as I spoke about last week, from God, source, whatever the meaning of that is for you, we get severed from all that's natural and true and beautiful. And at the very core of all those things is love. You know, I've been living in like kind of, you know, I had been for a year, like in a very urban environment, lots of noise, lots of construction, and it was just awful. And then I got out of it recently, kind of because something urgent happened. And now I'm in a much more kind of suburban, still not nature, but suburban environment, which is more tranquil, not completely, but it's better. But the other day I found, like, in the neighborhood a few blocks away, there's one huge patch of just like a open field, and there's a white road, and just walking down that white road, and because there were trees, all of a sudden hearing birds, so many birds, and being able to see the filtered light of the setting sun coming through the trees, and the way that the sun like pulses and undulates, and all of these beautiful colored rainbow lines of light as the last rays come through the trees, and just seeing everything, the aura of all the plants, and, you know, the beauty of the flowers and the butterfly. And it was like I'd had the most wonderful bath. My nervous system could finally go. So the unrelenting feeling right now is because we're in this invisible spiritual battle. Just checking something. We're in this invisible spiritual battle. All of these thoughts are trying to penetrate that are not true. They're false. Fear is an illusion, right? And the distraction to pull away from what is really true, who you truly are, and what is the source of us. When you dip into nature, it all comes back. The memory comes back, because the feeling of home is there, because that is home. Nature represents the essence of our soul and spirit, and the other side of the veil, which is our home. Nature represents that. And so if we're not in nature, and if we're in a very urban environment, and if we're really following the manipulated current that society is driving us in, that's like, forget who you are, forget who you are, forget you are. Let's distract you. Let's busy you. Let's put you into competition and comparison, and get likes and get followers, and their life is better than yours, and you're not good enough, and you have got to do this to prove and validate who you are. All of that shit, all of that noise. It's taunting, right? And the one thing that is going to pull us out of that is remembering our true nature. And a very, quick means of getting there And I never used this terminology before because it was so caught up with religion, and which I think a lot of it is very man-made and man-manipulated. It's not the people, the figures that we speak about. I don't think their story has been told correctly. I think who they were as a being, who they were as an essence, whether that was Christ or Buddha or anyone else, is not what is written about or talked about or put into dogma. That's just my personal view. But, I think we are in a time of needing to remember source, God, consciousness. When we forget this reality, this truth, let me put it in that word, not reality, this truth, this fundamental universal truth, that we are infinite immortal beings and that we are an extension. So people say we are a child of God. It's an extension of consciousness. It's a bubble of an orb of energy or consciousness that comes from the source of, that could be a waterfall of light, whatever it is for you. That's great. But that there is a source of something, of us. And I think right now in this spiritual battle, and the more that we feel the loudness and the chaos and the busyness and the unrelenting nature of it, the invitation is go in and connect up. Connect down too, right? You gotta connect to the earth, and she's also cosmic, right? The earth is also cosmic. But I'm recognizing that it's actually, I'm not finding that much peace in the outer world, especially because I don't even have a home to come to relax my nervous system. I don't know where I'm going to live in 6 weeks' time. So I don't have a place where I can just, as much as we want to say, oh, that's an illusion too, that could be taken away like this, right? We've seen it. Fires, hurricanes, earthquakes. But for the meantime, there is a sense of like, I do have a shelter, right? So I'm not going to be like sleeping in the car or on the street. So, but even then, even if you have that, and there's still this like da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun, da-da-da-da-dun of energy, of unrelenting energy, and just stuff that's happening in people's lives. So many things are coming in from all angles, so many challenges. And part of me goes, what the hell is the point of this? Like, why did our soul choose this? Why is this the course? Why is this the trajectory? How is this helping us? And this morning I was really like, I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm evolving. I feel like this is like devolving me at this point because I'm on my knees with exhaustion. What good can I do if I'm so exhausted that I feel like I can't function? And that I'm afraid that my body's going to collapse and that my nervous system is going to snap. And what good is that? How can I even be a good, well, not good, it's just not, words are so limiting, but it's like, how is this useful? And in those moments, I think it's not useful at all. This is a bunch of bull poop, as my daughter would say. And then the only point of clarity that I can come back to is from the perspective of the soul is looking inward, having this experience, very much like when we take plant medicine, we close our eyes and we go into an experience in a different dimension and different realities and different expressions of who we are. Is like what I had in my journey of like, let go of the resistance. We are dismantling, like the thing with this unrelenting energy is it's forcing us to dismantle old identities, old belief systems, old perspectives. And it might bring you to your knees, and it might be incredibly exhausting, tiring, vexing, depressing, boring, whatever it is for you. It does feel like a loop that keeps on going round and round and round. And the only free will that we have in this moment is to choose how to respond to it and to surrender the need and the want to control it. So I'm enacting this myself. Like, I'm on my knees with exhaustion, as I've said so many times. What can I do? What can I do? But it's like, okay, what if in this moment I don't try and control it, Corinne. Don't try and figure it out. Have a cry if you need. And come back to this, like, I am being held. I can't see it, but I am being held. And don't forget God, source, creator, love, consciousness. Don't forget that. That's, if there's only one thing that's real, that's the only one thing that's real in this moment. And I've really been enjoying watching these NDE, these near death experiences, these short little films of people sharing their experience. And this one woman, this struck me as well. It was like, God, I feel like we're constantly being kind of lovingly tested by God, source, because she'd had this whole experience. She crossed the other side. She had this whole conversation with, whatever God. Different people have different experiences, right? Sometimes it's with a guide, sometimes it's with God, sometimes it's with an angel, sometimes it's with a family member, an ancestor. But they have this beautiful experience. And then actually, so she's having this whole experience with God and being shown all of these things, and so beautiful and so moving and so touching. And then she's coming back actually to earth, but instead of coming back to earth, she's coming back into this weird, like creepy, like these hands are coming through and kind of wanting to pull her. It's like the energies and the souls that have really truly truly forgotten source. And she was saying that, like, God, she'd never felt such a sadness that came from source itself, being like, oh, these souls, these beings have forgotten about me. And so they can't fully come back, and they get stuck, they hover. And the sadness of that, because really the sadness is, oh, you've forgotten love. And so you're existing without love. And that is just so sad. It's so deeply tragic and sad, because that is our home. And that's who we truly are. And so she was being pulled into this, and it was like she could feel the fear, and she's like, oh my God, I can't, I don't want to come back into this. Like, this is terrible. I'm coming back into what feels like hell, right? And all of these terrible thoughts, and she was feeling terrified by it. And then she said, God, help me, help me. And all of a sudden she gets pulled back up. And it was almost like, the way I took it, it was like, oh, that was a test to see if you come back and you forget again. Can you ask for help? Can you remember your source? And I get that the word God is very triggering. For many, 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 many years, I didn't use it because of what I explained earlier. So whatever the word, the label is for you, the most important thing is the feeling that you remember that you are connected to that, and that source loves you more than anything that you could possibly imagine. Because they all describe that when you go to the other side, it's just euphoric, the feeling of love. It's a love like you cannot put words to. It makes you want to, they all say, like, makes your heart feels like it's going to shatter open, because it's so much love. That's like our true mother and father, the true partner that we're looking for. Our self, when we talk about self-love, how does source love us? How does God love us? And I'm been right there when I'm like, well, God doesn't fucking love us if, like, all this shit's going down here on earth and people are dying and there's wars and there's greed and manipulation and lies and all. But this is just like a trip, right? And part of the trip is dodgy. Because it's inviting us in that moment, in the worst of worst moments, to let love in. And the moment we choose that, then the reality might still be unrelenting. It might still be exhausting. You might still not have what you're seeking. Like, for me, it's my home and my partner. Like, you might still, those realities might be there still. They will eventually change, because all things eventually change. But our experience of what is happening changes. And we might have to remind ourselves, like every minute sometimes. Like today, I feel like I'm going to have to remind myself the moment that I project into overwhelm and the fatigue and the concern of where am I going to be and what am I going to do and how am I going to even do this and that today. Come back here, come back into the present moment. Remember my connection to source. Remember my true nature. Remember who I really am. Remember what this experience is all about. That I'm not this, even though this, my body feels like it's going to collapse and I can't take it anymore. I'm actually still not this. And I realized for myself, I don't even think I'm so scared of dying. Like I'm sure we're wired to be afraid, but on a spiritual level, I'm not afraid of dying. I never have been, because for me, it's like, oh, I get to go back home. I think what I am afraid of is just suffering, like being in I can handle a lot of pain and a lot of pressure, but I'm getting to the point where I'm so tired that it's like, can I keep on doing this? Can I keep on going? That's what I'm more afraid of. I'm afraid of my body breaking down and not having the energy to just exist anymore. And yet it's like those again are the moments of like, can you be held by what you cannot see? But that is absolutely right here with us. We've never left it, as Daryl was saying. We've never left it. We've never left our soul. We've never left the spirit realm. We are just in this trip right now with our eyes closed, thinking that we are somewhere totally else and that we're separate, and we're not. And this time of whatever you want to call it, awakening, this massive transformation and transition is just the remembering that that's what's true, that we never left home, that we never left source, that we never left our soul. That's the merging of the different dimensions. That's the pulling back of the veil. And then it would be so amazing to have this experience of being here, but also being in connection with the other side. That's what I'm waiting for. So, what is the message? What is the invitation? That moment of stillness and silence is where we're all kind of almost being funneled into to go through, because it's in the silence where we're going to find peace, we're going to find home, we're going to find relief, we're going to find support, we're going to find love, we're going to find connectivity, where we realize that we're not alone. And I see it almost as like, this portal or this like black hole that then opens up into this whole other like, whoosh, it's going through the veil. It's what people describe as, when you pass through and you go to the other side in their near-death experiences, and there's like this whole world on the other side. And so we're learning, this is the other analogy I wanted to use. We're not like, you're not in control of a dream. You're not in control of a plant medicine journey, but you can learn how to lucid dream. You can learn how to lucid dream. And when you lucid dream, you do have more control of what's going on in your dream. And so maybe that's where we are right now. We're learning how to lucid dream. But in order to lucid dream, you have to be awake and aware. You have to be conscious. And that's why they say the awakening, like pulling back the amnesia, waking up from the illusion, most especially the illusion of fear, and that you're not worthy and that you're not good enough and that there is no God source creation, that you are flawed, that something's wrong with you, that you need to prove yourself, that you are not innately and intrinsically lovable, significant, and that you belong. That is such an illusion, right? So we're remembering. And then I think when we remember, we can be in this dream, but it's like having a lucid dream where then maybe we can help form and shape and create the reality that we'd like to create. But it's not coming from a place of like, oh, I need to do these steps of manifestation. And if I don't do it right, then I'm going to attract something bad and it's going to be all no. You just get to like the analogy that just came through, the vision that just came through, it's like riding a horse. At first you're like clunking around and it hurts your butt and it doesn't feel good and you feel out of control. And then it's like, no, you merge with the horse and your bodies move as one. And wouldn't it be beautiful if we can do that with our human self? Our soul and our human self and this experience can merge into a place of harmony. And then you get to co-create. You get to co-create your experience. But I think we need to let go of anything that puts us into a thought frame that I'm doing it wrong. I fucked it up. You're not in control of it. Like your soul is going to take you on the course that you're meant to go on. And the best thing that we can do is to be as present, aware, awake, and conscious so that we choose to respond in a way that's just more loving and kind and therefore easeful for us. It might still be hard, but if we're loving ourselves in the process of it, if we're holding our hand, and if we're holding the hand of our soul, and if we're holding the hand, it's like a little kid, like reaching up and holding the hand of its parent, which is God's source creator. That's where we feel safe. That's where we feel loved. Like a child knows they're okay when they can hold their mommy or their father's hand. Go, I'm not alone here. They got me. They're looking after me. They love me. They take care of me. And I'm not using that as an analogy that we're like, some helpless spiritual child. I mean more that it's like that, the painting, what is it, Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci? The fingers coming together of God and man. We're right there. We're right there. It's right here. I don't know if any of that made sense, if it's helpful or not. I'm riding the waves along with you, and I'm just learning that the only thing that truly matters is to remember this source of who we are and the essence of who we are, and to just allow the crumbling to crumble, and to take moments where we can to nurture our physical body and our psychological and emotional being and nature, connection, slowing down, appreciating beauty. I think these are the things that help us access those places of peace and remind us of who we truly are. And that's going to be the invitation again and again and again and again and again every single day, because the outer world is going to get crazier, folks. But simultaneously, there will be an emergence of a very different way of being. And so all of the stuff that you've been doing, you might find yourself going, what am I doing? This doesn't have any meaning to me anymore. This doesn't matter anymore. What is this? I don't want to be doing this. Like, sounds are going to get louder. Bad food is going to taste worse. Like, casual sex with a stranger is going to feel totally uninteresting. Relationships that aren't based on authenticity and truth and transparency and kindness and goodness, you're not going to want to put up with. Music that isn't beautiful and nourishing to your being, that has words that actually are uplifting, you're not going to want to listen to this shit. It's like a proper cleanse. And we're releasing toxins right now. We're detoxing. And part of that is like pretty uncomfortable, right? You might feel like rubbish for part of that journey, part of that process. We're taking off the skin, the shell, the armor, the shackles, the chains. And it's like when I go in and I tune in and I look at it from the perspective of the soul, it's like all I see is like there's this beautiful light and angels and music and like the sweetest taste you will ever taste. And it's not about something like, I know people be like, oh, that's Shangri-La, Corinne, like get your heads out of the cloud. No, I'm connecting into a frequency that frequency can be embodied in human form. But it can only happen if we remember who we are and remember that source is there holding us and get out of the illusion that we're alone and separate. And this is like a place that you have to be imprisoned by. You don't need to be in the rat race anymore. Fuck their game. Excuse my language. Fuck their game. Doesn't mean anything. If you don't buy into it anymore, it cannot continue. So we got to stop believing it. We got to start believing in ourselves, in one another, in source, in love, in consciousness. And then we get to, along with our soul that is driving us on this very particular course, where this is part of it, like it or not, this is part of it, that once we get through this, then that beautiful energy gets to come in, and it already is, and the point is to not try to always get there and get there and get there. I'll be happy when. The point is connect to that now. Close your eyes and connect to that now, and create that slice of peace, that pocket of peace now, here, inside of you. The journey is no longer outside of you. It's not. Things will happen on the outside, but the invitation is come back in, close your eyes. How do you perceive what's happening in your life? By going in. The wisdom is in, through, and up to who you truly are. It's like, think of it as like Avatar, that's like lies in and is like connected in, right? Go to that channel, and we all have it. No psychic is going to tell you what you already know. Just sometimes we need external guidance to give us access, to remind us of how to access it, or to give us confirmation. Like when I do soul readings, a lot of the times it's just confirming what somebody's like, oh yeah, I could feel that. Oh, I've been sensing that. We already know. We have the wisdom. Like we just have to let go of all of these crazy lies that we know nothing, and we have no wisdom, and we have no intuition, and we have no home. So welcome home, my friends, to who you truly are, and to the higher truth and source of what all of this is. And you'll know it if you reach love. I'll leave it at that. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you. And I'm loving you so much from afar. And just know that you're not alone. Thanks for being here. Bye. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.